Ladies and gentlemen, and health and wellness advocates, how are you? This is Dr. Lewish, and I want to tell you something that I've been reading through and just doing some research here. And then I came across a very interesting phenomenon that is called the Coolidge effect. Coolidge, the Coolidge effect. I hope I'm pronouncing it the right way. Now, listen to this definition, because this is going to lay down the basis of discussions in the video tonight or today. And this video is intended to discuss the refractory period in men. You see, when a man ejaculates, they have to take some time before they come back to their stiffness. Why is it that in most men it is absent? In the modern man, it's actually very absent. Once they ejaculate, they don't want to have sex again. They will not rise to the occasion again. And why is it that in other men it's actually shorter? So they always want to have sex multiple times even after ejaculation. What is the difference? That is the basis of this video tonight, okay? Just reducing and helping you reduce the refractory period so that you can actually pound the arm to satisfaction. So listen to this. The Coolidge effect describes the phenomenon in sexually reproducing animals where males exhibit renewed sexual interest when presented with a new female, even after mating with the previous female. Now, let me break this down in a language that you can easily understand, okay? So, men who have a problem with the refractory period, who either have a longer refractory period or the refractory period lasts forever, cheat the most. Men who have issues with erection have been known to cheat the most for a reason. Because one, there is external validation. They will get validation from the new catch, right? Even with their 1 minute, as long as they are compensating with something else, either money or resources or the physique, the validation that they will get from that other partner makes more sense to them. So they will always be chasing that thrill to get that validation. And this is exactly what is happening here. So the Coolidge effect basically tells you that you present a cock with multiple hens, different hens at a time. This cock has renewed sexual energy, and that's how the cock ends up fertilizing all the eggs that from this chicken. Even the bulls, when a bull is just in a group of the same females, the sexual urge is not there as much. But you present it with a new heifer, this bull will rise to the occasion and do what it has to do again and again. So this is the same concept that can actually be tapped in terms of helping men reduce the refractory period. I'm not advocating for cheating. I'm basically saying that introduce some kinky stuff, introduce some fun, introduce a prolonged foreplay period so that you can actually get to connect with your woman on a sexual level. And now that helps you reduce the refractory period. Men, every time you ejaculate, there is a flooding in the production of dopamine in your brain. A lot of dopamine is produced as a pleasure system, is a reward for you having the sex and ejaculating. So you produce so much dopamine in your brain, and this floods the brain. Once this dopamine floods the brain, within a short period of time, it's metabolized, broken down, and is now down. It goes even lower than the normal levels of dopamine. Now your body goes into a feeling of depression, a feeling of stress, a feeling of no desire. Basically, you just want, even drowsiness, you just want to sleep. All right. That's why after sex, most men just sleep, because the drowsiness, the feeling of guilt, sometimes when you're having sex with a different person or cheating, the guilt that comes in, the no interest, lack of interest in the person or the partner or even the sexual experience again, it's because of the reduced dopamine, the immediate reduce in the dopamine levels in your brain. They give you no motivation. So that's the reason why we end up having longer refractory periods, or even the absence of coming back again and rising to the occasion again. So some people will prefer watching porn again to get that excitement and release of dopamine again. People will prefer using medications that I don't advocate for. Porn and medication I don't advocate for, because, for example, porn will take away your direct relationships with women. Porn will actually destroy your brain and your reward centers. Porn is just, please just don't watch porn for this. Okay, there are multiple ways you can actually follow to actually improve or shorten your refractory period and come back again, including semen retention. But we'll talk about that. So there are people who will actually prefer medications to get an erection back, like sildenafil, the blue pills. But you see, these medications in the long run, they're actually going to cause you more problems than help. They're going to expose you to low blood pressure. They're going to expose you to cancers. They're going to expose you to a phenomenon that is called priapism. Priapism is when you get to take a medication and then you end up having an erection that does not go away. So you have these erections that is stiff and is very painful. And now even the sexual desire has disappeared. All right. So all those things are just useless. I think we should encourage you to actually do the natural stuff like emptying the bladder before having the sex. You go out to the toilet and urinate completely so that you now activate the pelvic muscles, because the bladder, when it's full, is actually pressing on the nerves that are supposed to supply the pelvic muscles, and now you start struggling with getting a refractory period. Right? So either way, let's run this discussion from top to the end. So ideally, the difference between men and women sexually is the refractory period. Now, women are very well known to have a faster refractory period than men. So, a woman can actually have multiple explosions in terms of the fluid, the ejaculation, let's call it that. And they can also have multiple orgasms. So, they can have the orgasms, which is a pleasure, and they can also have multiple explosions in terms of the fluids coming out. And most of you are calling that squirting. However, I want you to understand that squirting, the squirt fluid comes from the urethral orifice, not the vaginal orifice. That tells you there is a very, very big chance that actually squirt is urine. So please stop giving people pressure, lying that squirting is an orgasm. It's not, because there are women who actually squirt without even getting an orgasm. All right. So yeah, if you ask me, it's just urine, but that's a topic for another day. So women are capable of having multiple orgasms and multiple explosions. Men can have multiple orgasms as long as they retain their semen. That's the only way. If a man ends up exploding, basically ejaculating, problems start, because most men, they call it post-nut clarity. They will start knowing that you have issues, you are obese, you have this pot belly, you have these stretch marks, you don't look as attractive as such, because after the sex, now they become sane. They start thinking right. Now they can actually kick you out so fast. And this is the time when the men realize that they cannot come back and have a second episode or a second, you call it a second shot in terms of sex and ejaculation. So it's only fair that if a man is not so sure about the woman, you don't have to ejaculate. Ejaculation and orgasm are not the same. Orgasm is the feeling good. When it's coming, you feel the goodness. And then when you release, that's the ejaculation. Those two are different. The moment you release, you become very clear in your mind. The moment you release, you flood your system with dopamine. And now that becomes a problem, because the moment it comes up, it's then again brought down so fast and it goes below normal levels of dopamine. And now your body goes into the feeling of laziness, drowsiness, and sleep. And now that's how you start saying, sex to me is a sedative. It gives me good sleep. No, you're just actually bored. Okay? So I want you to know this. Since men cannot have multiple orgasms, one, retain the semen, right? Then start practicing a lot of breathing techniques for you to actually improve your refractory period. So this video is inspired by a lot of men who come to me and tell me, sir, Daktari, there's a time I had sex with this girl, and she's attractive physically, but the moment I ejaculated, she became I was so irritated, because the moment she wants me to have another episode of sex, I'm like, no, I'm tired. I have to fake this exercise. I have to become maybe a tough so that she can actually suppress her libido. I have to actually shame her sometimes, tell her, your libido is way too much. And also women are complaining about this, that, as I get older, I'm becoming more sexy, I'm becoming more horny. As I fix my diet and my estrogens, I'm actually becoming more sexually active, and my man cannot match up this. So what do? Should we just find other partners? Should we buy sex toys or so? No. The answer is talk to your men to fix their diet, to lose that pot belly, to start eating clean, fasting, to retain their semen, so that all the results will come to you as a woman. Instead of going to find help from outside, you can actually find help from inside. So you cannot understand how to get or to shorten the refractory period if you don't understand how ejaculation actually and orgasm actually happens. All right. So I want you to see this. Between the ejaculation and rising again to the occasion. We call that the latency period or the refractory period, right? In the younger version of men, in their teenagers, in their 20s, early 20s and all that, except these men who are actually coming in with alcohol and eating all these crappy foods, teenagers have an added advantage because of high testosterone levels. So what happens is in them, the refractory period is very short. They can have those 7 shots at night and it's just normal to them. But as a man ages, as their testosterone levels go down, as the inflammation increases, as they consume all these inflammatory foods and alcohol, as they use medication along the way, as they get into hypertension, diabetes, and all these chronic conditions, of course, their refractory period starts to be longer and longer and longer until it gets to a point where after an ejaculation, this man does not ever want or will never ever rise again to the occasion. And that becomes a serious problem to women, specifically in those days that they are in the mood, basically either ovulating or they're totally in the mood to have sex. So these are channels that will help men to actually fix this, right? So you start from somewhere. At least if you have a chronic condition like diabetes and hypertension, we've talked about how to reverse those conditions. Because these are the conditions that, one, will lower the levels of testosterone. Number two, they will actually destroy your nervous supply. They will destroy blood vessels that supply the penis. Remember, for you to get an erection, there must be increased blood flow to rush into the penis. The penis gorges with blood, and that's how you get a firm erection. And then this blood has to be retained in the penis. There are valves in the veins that actually block this blood flow from coming out or out of the penis. So you retain the blood there so that the erection period lasts longer. Now, in the refractory period, it has nothing much to do with the erections as such. It has everything to do with the ejaculation. Because the moment you ejaculate, now the zeal is gone, the thrill is gone. So now you have to introduce things, because realize, for you to get the optimum amounts of dopamine in your brain that will actually stimulate you so that you can actually start having the sexual experience, one, you must improve the release of the dopamine. And the only way to improve the release of dopamine is to actually go back to the drawing board. Realize this. A lot of men have no problem with having sex. They have a problem with having more sex after the sex, right? More sex after the ejaculation. That is the major problem. Because semen retention is a skill that you learn over time. As you learn that skill, do this. Learn to distract yourself from this experience. Basically, this is the time you can actually have nuts in your house, or an avocado, or something that you can actually take, or even Greek yogurt, so that your entire mind is just not about the sex. You see, most men, when they look at a woman, all they are seeing is the sex. So they will have everything to say before the sex, because they now have the dopamine release that is causing them to get an erection. They are now in the relaxation mode, because for you to get an erection, you need to be in the rest and digest system, the parasympathetic system. If you activate the sympathetic system, you are now in danger. So you cannot have sex when you're actually thinking of danger. So most men, they are relaxed in the first place, but the anxiety that comes into their heads that raises that stimulates their sympathetic nervous system is the one that messes them up, because they start thinking, what if I will not come up again the same way it happened to the other woman? That is where the problem comes in, because in your head, you have just had an ejaculation here, and you've realized you actually had a shorter period of sex, and this woman might not be satisfied sexually. So you start thinking, maybe I'll disappoint the way I disappointed the other one. Maybe I'll disappoint the way I disappointed the previous episode. That is performance anxiety. And I'll talk about performance anxiety in another video. So one, try and reverse chronic conditions that you actually have that are actually messing up your system. Diabetes being one of them, all right? Hypertension being part of it. Mental health issues that come from messed up guts, consumption of these substance of abuses, alcohol and all that. A fatty liver being part of it. All these are conditions that actually bring you a problem. And the only way to reverse these conditions is to do the 7 things that we do here, the 7 pillars. Eat clean. And when I say eat clean, realize testosterone is going to play a very big role in this refractory period. So the higher the testosterone, the shorter the refractory period. And the only way to boost testosterone, one, make sure you enjoy the sun intentionally. Go and enjoy the sun. At least 30 minutes every day of the sunlight is important for you. Number two, if you have that weight, that pot belly, you stand and you cannot see your penis, go and lose that pot belly. Start working so hard to lose that pot belly. Don't go into the gym, no. Go into the kitchen. Drop all those processed foods and restaurant foods. Stop drinking alcohol and smoking cigarettes, right? Start eating clean. Basically, animal proteins make them very fatty, because testosterone comes from cholesterol, and cholesterol is in these fats. Change your cooking oils. Drop all the inflammatory foods, right? Start taking cold showers. Every time you beat a challenge, your testosterone goes up. Cold showers will stimulate your nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system, which in the short term it is not good for erections, but in the long run it's going to give you a lot of calm, because once you take a cold shower, the feeling that you feel after taking the cold shower is now activating the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest. You get pleasure and you get erections when you are in the relaxed mode, not when you're in the anxious mode. All right. Number 3, make sex an experience for you. All right. Don't go into the sexual experience thinking about how to satisfy a woman. Go into that experience to have fun. Make it fun, make it kinky, make it new. All right. Renew everything. Don't be that person who is constantly in one position. No, at least change the positions. Why? Because once you do that, you are stimulating the brain to know, oh, this is actually looking like kinky. This will help you not to watch porn. This will help you actually pound the arm to satisfaction. And these are very small things that we need to talk about on our whole life, so that you can actually enjoy and learn more of this. Because I realized when I talk about sexual experiences, most of you will flood those lives, but when I talk about other health conditions, you people start to disappear because you don't want to be told the truth. So start eating these dark leafy vegetables, the green leafy vegetables that have high content of zinc and high content of magnesium. Another hack is pumpkin seeds. Boil the pumpkin plus pumpkin seeds, or you can actually blend the pumpkin seeds plus an avocado. You can also roast them like nuts and enjoy those pumpkin seeds. They are rich in magnesium and zinc. Realize, for you to produce testosterone, optimum amounts of testosterone, you require zinc and you require magnesium. Magnesium and zinc is in nuts. No wonder people from the western side, they always tell you eating nuts will actually give you erections because of the zinc and magnesium. Magnesium is rich in pumpkin seeds, avocados, and green leafy vegetables. Consume those and then also consume fatty meats and basically animal proteins. For a moment, stay away from the plant-based proteins, the cereals and the legumes. Why? Because they will come with estrogen and that will bring you problems. All right, so stay away from those. And we've talked about those anti-nutrients and phytoestrogens. Stay away from alcohol, because alcohol is actually coming in with phytoestrogens and other toxins that can actually destroy your blood vessels. Anything that is going to inflame blood flow towards the penis is a problem. Just remember, you need blood flow towards the penis, and then you need to retain that blood in the penis as long as you can, so that you can actually hold a long erection. And then if you can, start practicing semen retention. Have sex, enjoy the orgasm, but push it back into the spine so that you don't ejaculate. Imagine if you already suffer a long refractory period or an absence of erecting back after ejaculation, why would you then ejaculate? If you're looking for a child, why do you constantly ejaculate every night? You don't have to ejaculate every single night. No, you can actually have sex, enjoy the orgasms, but retain the semen. All right? Practice that. Learn it. It's a skill that will take time, but you can learn it. All right? And then start fasting, because when you fast, you boost testosterone. When you fast, you heal inflammation. Now blood flow towards the penis is improved. And the more nutritious blood goes into the penis, the shorter the refractory period. The higher the testosterone, the shorter the refractory period. All right? You can use nitric oxide supplements, because now nitric oxide is the one that dilates blood flow, so the blood vessel, so that blood flows into the penis. And we've talked about nitric oxide before. We said beetroots, we said nuts, we said garlic. All right, we said these are the things that actually contain high content of nitric oxide. And then we said, if you want to produce enough nitric oxide, the sinuses, okay, the sinuses are very well known of producing nitric acid. And the only way to do that is to protect them from being inflamed. Therefore, obesity has to go. All right, therefore, smoking has to go. And then deep breaths. You breathe in and then you breathe out through the mouth. Breathe in through the nose deeply and then breathe out through the mouth. Basically 8 to 10 seconds of breathing out. Imagine that. Just start practicing it. Breathing in deeply and then you breathe out through the mouth for about 8 to 10 seconds. You will realize that you will start having more control over your erections and more control over the sexual experience than when you're doing shallow breathing. Because when you're doing shallow breathing, that is anxiety. Shallow breathing, it means you're actually turning your body into the sympathetic nervous system, and now erection starts to go because the body records that you're now in danger. So you're actually viewing the woman as danger. It is not now pleasure anymore, and now the erection starts going down, and that becomes a problem. So semen retention, enjoy the sun, change that diet, all right? Start fasting, enjoy cold showers, ease up on stress, because stress is highly inflammatory to your system, and then go and lift the weights. The moment you attain a certain weight, let's say 75 kgs or 80 kgs and below, hit the gym and start lifting weights. Don't go and jump aerobics. Start lifting the weights so that you build a muscular structure, so that you lose the fat, so that you build testosterone. And if you want to gain more in the gym, one, train in the morning, early in the morning, when your testosterone and the growth hormone are being produced at the highest. Number two, train on an empty stomach. That's why you train in the morning, because you don't eat in the morning. So train on an empty stomach so that you maximize fat burning, so that you maximize absorption and utilization of minerals and nutrients. Okay, and I thought that should be known. And then now later on, when you're having your sexual experiences, breathe slowly, don't be in a hurry, right? And then don't overthink about it. Don't think of how you will satisfy the woman. Simply go into it with the mind of having satisfaction on your own, and through that confidence, you will end up satisfying the woman. But when you hand over the power, yet you are the one who is supposed to be dominant in bed, that becomes a serious problem. Now, I hope that this video actually enlightened you, and you can actually apply the basics of this video to actually give you back: 1, healthy weight; 2, high testosterone; 3, improve blood circulation and blood flow towards your penis; 3, shorten the refractory period so that you can actually pound the yam multiple times; and 4, of course, learn the skill of retaining the semen so that you don't have to ejaculate every single time you have sex. I thought you should know.